Hello, everybody. Today is Wednesday, July 10th, 2024. This is the Real Estate Note Investing Be the Bank broadcast coming to you live every month, brought to you by American Note Buyers. I have our continued long-term guest on today, Jay Redding, Jamie Bateman, and Mr. Chris Seveney. Jamie has a pretty nasty little case study today to talk about. Got a lot of graphic pictures in here. You don't want to miss it. It may give you nightmares. I'm not sure, but stay tuned to find out. Hello. What happened to our fourth guy?
I'm back.
There he is.
I went to go hit stream to my audience during this thing, and it kicked me off to a new thing. I'm like, oh, uh-oh.
Uh-oh.
Too much crazy technology.
Oh,
I see Jaybird just got in at the nick of time.
I just made it. I must have had an old link because I kept getting an error. So
well, you were about seconds away from owing a case of beer to the other three on the show.
I would say I would have been on double probation.
Double probation.
Double secret probation.
Double secret probation.
There you go.
Wow, it's July. Can you believe we're already halfway through the year?
Yes.
You can believe it? I can't believe it.
I can.
It's gone by fast,
Wow.
especially the second quarter.
That's what I'm saying. As you get
Q2
older,
flew.
each year it gets faster. I'm going to tell you that.
Okay.
Or when you spend half the 6 months on vacation like Jay has. Oh, wait.
Oh,
I'm just
kidding.
kidding.
I kind of have had 4 weeks of vacation in there already.
Yeah, I'm jealous.
okay. I've only been to Cedar Point so far this summer. That's the only vacation I've had. What's everybody else done?
Mine will be quick. We've got a trip to Deep Creek in Western Maryland in August.
What's Deep
Really
Creek?
Deep Creek. Yeah.
Cool
That's the
place.
city?
There's a Deep Creek Lake, and so there's the lake during the summertime, and there's skiing in the wintertime. So it's about 3
Is it a
hours
creek
away.
or is it a lake?
It's a lake.
Confusing to me. I don't know.
Deep Lake Creek. Yeah,
I want to believe you. I just the name's throwing me off.
So
Yeah.
most people forget like Maryland actually like hooks up and over West Virginia,
Yeah.
and it's
Exactly.
like up and over the hump. But
Yeah.
it's
Real,
yeah,
it's real skinny there. So
it's a cool place to go if nobody's
Yeah.
ever been there.
How about you, Chris? You been anywhere so far?
Yeah, we just came back from Universal Studios in Orlando, so we spent 5 days down there. Took the kids, good time, and it was during when the weather down there wasn't what it is like today, or for most of us, it's like 100 degrees or just awful outside. It was nice in the 80s. One day it was like in the 90s, but it was not crowded at all compared to what we were expecting.
Good. Did you have to sell a note to afford to go down there? Universal.
So it's cheaper than Disney, but it's it isn't cheap. I'll tell you that much.
And where'd you go, Jay?
Let's see. Back in February, March, we were out in
Just the
Mesa.
summer. Just the summer.
Oh, this was summer.
Summer
Okay.
vacation.
Oh, okay. We were out in Idaho, went up to Cascade, and then up around Idaho Falls, and then West Yellowstone, and spent some time in Yellowstone Park as well. So it was 10 days out there.
Was this an anniversary vacation?
No, it's a vacation a quarter.
Okay.
It's being a successful note investor, what you can do with your life when
That
you're
once you get it built, there you go. That's right.
Yeah, once you're good. See,
once you marry off your daughter to your son-in-law.
Well, that was a number of years ago. Okay.
Jay's
So this is a
earned it.
combination of being a successful note investor and real estate investor. There you go.
I like it.
I think you've
well,
earned
Jamie,
it.
You got your case study going on today. I was saying now because I saw the pictures. I don't think Jay has seen the pictures. Perhaps Chris has, but it's pretty nasty. That's the way I describe it. It just looks pretty nasty. I know there's an interesting story about it, and good things happen with it. But before we get into that, what's kind of hot in the news that y'all have seen recently?
I'll jump in.
Go ahead.
First. The two things that I'll say note related are, and I think Jay, you may have mentioned this or somebody mentioned this.
I posted. Yeah, I posted.
Yep, and I'll let Jay talk a little bit more about what's going on in Texas. But because I think that's something he's more familiar with, but that was what I was going to mention that, but I'll let Jay kind of touch on that. But also, similar to that in Maryland, also recent kind of court decision that came out in regards to, being a licensed lender in the state, and company did a modification. I don't want to completely quote the case because haven't read it in a little while.
Yeah.
But essentially, a foreclosure notice for foreclosure got overturned because of a lender not having proper licensing within the state. So that is, to me, interesting news, because one of the things we all focus on in the note space is it's not only kind of federal regulations, but each state is very different in how they handle owning or originating loans. So it's something you always got to stay on top of.
Yeah. Jay?
Sure. I'm not located in Texas, so it's not pertaining directly to me at this particular point. But the critical point here of all the seller financing notes that take place throughout the country, about 25% of the industry, all right, is in Texas. So kind of how Texas goes, everybody else is going to end up following. So the important factor here is the bottom line is that if you're going to do more than 3 seller finance type of things, do 3 seller finance notes in a year originating, they're going to want you to have your license, all right, to be a loan originator, is what it's basically what they were trying to pass. So that could potentially eliminate the ability for many people to be able to seller finance a lot of homes, all right, there. So I don't think it's going to pass, all right, because a lot of people are really up in the air about it, but it was a grassroots effort. So it was essentially
Well, it eliminates the need for an RMLO in Texas, the ones that are third-party standalone operations, and that's what they do, that they wouldn't be allowed to do it. And that's what this law would prohibit them from doing, because the originator, like you said, they would have to actually go to a bank and have a bank be the RMLO for them, or they would have to go out and get their own license, like you said. So it's just a real interesting why they would even come up with it. Somebody has an agenda, right?
Well, I believe it was.
and
I believe
there's-
it was driven by a Mortgage Bankers Association, if I remember right.
It could have been.
I think.
It could have been.
All right.
It's
I may
just
be wrong
interesting.
on that. Don't hold me to it. I've slept a couple times since I read the data.
I've
So.
had a vacation since then.
Yeah, I had a vacation there too. So.
Yeah. Yeah, like Jay said, that's what I heard as well, is that things are going to be pushing in our direction to not have that be a burden. We're always trying to do things the right way with seller financing. We know the value of underwriting. By the way, why do they call it underwriting? Because that sounds more negative than like overwriting. Wouldn't you want to overwrite somebody? Play on words there. I got Jamie earlier on the Deep Creek and Lake situation. I'm still confused about it. I'm just imagining a creek that's just super deep, like the Mariana Trench or something. That's what I'm thinking about.
Outside of Boston, you can be driving on 128 north and 93 south at the same time. So once you figure that one out, let me know.
Oh, does
Okay,
it depend which direction you're going?
I've just gone cross-eyed.
No, you're going in the same direction. But you're
Okay.
going in the same direction. Yeah.
Like the Scarecrow and Wizard of Oz. Which way to go?
Yeah.
And you're actually going west on it, believe it or not. You're actually not even going north or south. You're actually going west.
All right, this is too much for me. I can't handle it. We need to get to the
Mind blown.
PowerPoint to get to something that's more in control for me. So, all right, let's pull up Jamie's case study and get started. Oh goodness, I still got some issues with graphics here. Pretend like you didn't see that. Okay, we're back.
There we go.
Who's running this show, man?
I don't know. Somebody needs to be fired.
If it goes well, it's me. It's my case study. But if there are issues, Justin's running the show. Just kidding.
And in fairness to Jamie, I took his original case study and I made some animations. So Jamie, I'll do my best to kind
See
of
what
keep
happens.
up with you as you do this. But this is Jamie's case study, and I'll let Jamie kind of explain it from here, and I'll try to jump in with the rest of the guys too when we have questions, because I'm sure that we will.
Yeah, fire away. I don't think Chris, you're afraid to chime in, aren't you, Chris?
So is this note was it bought as a performing or a non-performing asset when you bought it?
It was performing. Yeah. So the I think the title was about, can foreclosure be a win-win-win? Basically,
Sorry.
sometimes, no, all good. But sometimes note investors and lenders get a bad rap for foreclosing, like we're trying to kick people out on the street and we're just
the big bad bank, right? We're just trying to take houses over. That's
greedy investors. We don't care about people. It's just all about the dollar. But
not true. This is not true.
No, you'll see through this one at least that foreclosure can be a good thing, really all the way around. There's a bit of a sad part of this story too, but it does have I think a happy ending. So
I remember looking at this one. So I'm interested to see the story, because I do remember when this was available to purchase. I ended up passing on it. So
really,
yeah.
Well, I bought it a while ago. Well, December 2019. So
Yeah.
to answer your question, Justin, it was a performing contract for deed that I bought from someone on this call. Not Jay.
Don't look at me. Wasn't me.
It wasn't me either.
So it was one of my, I got into notes in 2018 and I would say, so I was probably a year and a half, 2 years into notes at this point. So not brand new, but not, I still had, I hadn't purchased, 75, 100 notes or whatever. So still had a lot to learn. So I was looking for performing assets at that point only. So that's what this was. And it did have equity. You can go ahead. I did a joint venture. We don't focus too much on that in this case study presentation, but it was actually a friend of mine. For those of you looking for partnerships or joint ventures, whatever you want to refer to it as, a friend who I'd known for many years reached out to me because he saw some of the posts I was putting on LinkedIn, and we were actually lacrosse buddies back in college, and so it wasn't some random person who I just took their money and ran. But he was the trusted person, and he was the quote unquote money partner, and I was the operational partner. We're both making decisions together, big decisions, but I'm managing the day to day of the asset.
So who got what part of the split?
Well, because it was performing. Now, would I do this again? Probably not. But In fact, I don't actually recommend joint ventures on performing assets, but I got the 25. So,
Okay.
yeah, so I had no money in the deal.
Okay, that's cool.
Purchase terms, you can see them there. Chris ripped me off. No, I'm kidding.
Great price on that.
Now that we have you two on the
13% yield,
call, let's
Where
air
can
out
you
some
buy
different.
a performing loan for 13% yield today?
That was
Except maybe
well,
from Justin.
yeah, no, it was
I gotta say, I know a couple places.
yeah, and I think the property value on this slide is actually a little bit of a teaser. I mean, I think we actually initially thought it was higher than that. So, on paper there was more equity, but there's still plenty of equity in my view on this deal, especially for a CFD.
So what is this? A little house in Michigan? What's it? A 3.2, 3.1?
Oh man, that's a good. I'd have to go back and refresh
Just
my
guess.
memory. I think a 3.2. It wasn't a
Thousand square
tiny.
feet?
1,600.
This is probably an old house too, like before
Yes,
the 50s.
definitely an old house for sure.
Okay.
And there was actually some acreage to it, but
3
yeah,
beds,
so it
3
makes
baths,
sense.
1,100 square feet.
Thank you.
You remembered that, or you looked that up?
He's Godzilla.
I looked it up.
Okay.
It had big yard. I remember that.
It did have a big yard. Yes.
So what? Being this was your first note, you said?
No, it wasn't my first note, but I'd
first
been
few?
doing within the first 10.
What'd you like about it?
There was equity coverage. It was performing. I bought it from someone I trusted. Trusted.
Yeah, say that's past tense there.
I still trust Chris, but yeah, those were all things that I liked about it. I mean, it was performing, strong yield, strong coupon rate. You can see there, and equity on paper, and I actually did end up having equity. So, yeah.
Yeah, your ITV is only 58%, so you got plenty of equity to protect you.
Yeah. And for those, we covered this a little bit with Jay's case study, but contract for deed, we're not going to go too far into that, but it's a little bit different than a note and mortgage or note and deed of trust if you're unfamiliar. Some nuances there. And yeah, so ultimately we were on title, and the borrower, even though they're not technically a borrower, the buyer is purchasing the property over time. So this was a contract for deed. Just wanted to make sure that was clear. Yeah.
All right.
So almost a year later, she stops making payments. Actually, there were 2 people on the contract.
Okay.
And so we sent a demand letter, 3 months after that, and starts the forfeiture process.
So was there communication at all with the borrower, or there's no communication?
So you can go ahead. We'll get to it so there was communication, to answer your question.
In that time period in September of 2020, when they stopped making payments, like, was there communication about it?
There was, yes.
Okay.
And she kept. So what ended up happening was she got hooked on drugs. I mean, we didn't know this at the time, but you'll see some of the evidence and fallout of that. But she would call up the servicer and kind of, give a sob story and literally cry on the phone. And I mean, not saying that was fake or anything, but so there was an effort on our part to work with her. But frankly, my inclination, a lot of people ask, I still get questions like, when should I send the demand letter? It's like immediately. That's how, I don't wait at all. But I'm still open to working with people, but it's when you get a letter from an attorney, usually that hopefully, makes you realize it's serious. And then the whole point is in my view, is to bring the borrower to the table so you can have a discussion. And we did end up doing, as you see here, a loan modification. And we have the terms later on here. So before the loan mod, right at the point of the loan mod, these were the terms there. And then it will load the modification terms. So we forgave quite a bit. You see here, and so the total payoff was over $61,000, and then what we did was raise the principal balance. So this is a little, I guess, tip for newer note investors is to, if you can do a modification where you can raise the principal balance but keep the P&I about the same or lower, not legal advice, I'm not an attorney, but that still should be considered not a new loan, not a refinance. So you should not have to requalify the borrower for their ability to repay. But if I can get her reperforming, and now I have a UPB that's higher than what it was last week, so to speak, that adds value to the asset itself. So as we all know, as buyers of notes, the principal balance is a big factor in that. So we were able to get the loan modification executed with a higher principal balance. She's motivated to do it because her monthly payment comes down and her total payoff comes down considerably. It resets her term, and she's now we're not moving forward with the forfeiture either. So there's a lot of reasons why she's motivated to agree to this.
So she wanted to be current, and she needed $25 of grace per month in her monthly payment. Is that what the solution was?
Now, pretty much. She did also put $1,000 down, which I guess we don't have on this slide, but there it is.
It's on there.
It is there. Yeah.
Yeah.
Now, would I do this exactly the same way again? Maybe not, but this is what we did then. So, yeah.
Would you forgive the same level? Would you forgive the 11,000 again?
It's sort of
knowing what you know now.
Exactly.
Well, yeah, knowing what you know now, hindsight's always 20/20.
Yeah.
I think it would have ended in this case. It would have ended the way it did, regardless. But that's a lot to forgive. To answer your question,
go ahead, Chris.
One thing we've done is, because we did this similar, and then we kind of shifted a little bit, where we defer it to the end of the loan, so it's not interest bearing. But we also, in some cases, have said, if you make 12 consecutive payments on time, we'll knock 1,000 off or 2,000. So it gives them incentive of, hey, look, you have, in this case, it would have been $18,000 sitting out there. Hey, look, if you make 12 consecutive payments, I'll knock $3,000 off. So if you pay for 6 years, it's wiped, or, something to give them some incentive that, hey, look, I'm literally, $3,000 a year is $250 a month roughly. So I'm paying $400 to get an extra $250 knocked off. It's a pretty good score. But if they also go back in default, then that gets kicked back into play. So
that still is legally collectible for you.
Yep.
Yeah.
I mean, a lot of people do. I'm probably in the minority here, but never really did the trial payment plan thing. Only because I felt like it was so much work with the servicer to get that set up and then do the loan mod. And the way we present loan mods typically is 3 options. The more they put down in cash, the better their terms are going to be. But I guess it's also because I'm impatient and I just don't like to wait them out. But a lot of people will do a 6-month or 12-month trial payment plan and then go to the modification.
Depends on the loan too. Like a CFD in Michigan, there's no reason to do a trial payment plan then a mod, because it's really not hurting you. Where in Ohio, if you had to foreclose, it's a big difference because you're starting all over and it can cost you a lot.
And Michigan's an interesting state. We did do a forfeiture, but you'll see that the timeline ended up being more like a foreclosure.
Along the lines of what Chris suggested or what he's done, the deferral method, I like that as well. And then, what this does as note investors, because most servicers charge a little bit more of a premium when it becomes non-performing, when it gets that 60, 90-day status. And the only way to get that kicked back down your monthly service payment that you owe as the lender is you can do one of these things, and that does help you. So, the deferral, I've just done deferral recently. That's why it's stuck in my mind, is that I went from, paying $90 a month or whatever and went back down to whatever my normal rate was. So the borrower got caught up, and
that's a good point.
They still owe the payments in the back end when they sell the house. But so that helps you as the lender as well. A little bit of monthly fees there.
Yeah. So you can see we were trying to work with her. what ended up happening, the neighbors, and I think I got some voicemails, and I don't even remember screenshots from the
Oh.
neighbors.
Because you're on the deed.
I'm
right?
on the deed.
Yeah.
Right, yeah.
So the township ended up contacting me because I'm on the deed,
Mhm.
and because the neighbors had reported blight. They also just didn't get along with each other. And I think there are going to be some pictures, some extra pictures here on the blight once we get there. But
Yeah, you tell me when to switch over to those. I have to switch to
Sure.
a different
Got it.
screen to do that.
Yeah, so she had, as you can see, possibly see here, there's essentially a mattress vomiting RV, and I say she. There were two people on the on the land contract, so male and a female couple presumably, but he, I think, left the picture, and so the neighbors reported this situation that they obviously didn't like, and so one thing to say, well. We can move forward, Justin. I think I'll mention it
Sorry.
in a bit.
I was.
What was the fetish with
Look at the fifth
mattresses?
wheel
Did
there.
you know?
I have no idea.
What'd you say, Chris?
What was the fetish with mattresses? If they're,
Oh, I thought you were going to say, who did anybody rip off the tags that they weren't supposed to rip off?
I don't think that was the worst thing going on here, but yeah, it's certain things. It's like in certain situations, I don't want to know. I don't ask questions.
Okay.
So I guess there was a demand letter sent, in reference to.
So this fifth wheel is on the site, on the land.
Yeah, exactly, correct. And so I guess this blight, and again, this was several years ago, so some of it I'm trying to remember, but I guess this blight gave us an option to essentially, threaten her with eviction if she didn't clean it up. And again, I'm going to get fined by the township, so it's on me to deal
the
with it.
likelihood of her getting it out of there is next to nothing. So
Eventually she did, but it took quite that you can see, however many months that is, 6 months, 5 months. So it happened over time. Actually, do you have that link, Justin? Let's just.
I do. You want to go to the slides right now?
The blight slides, if you have that.
Well, while you're going to those, I'll mention we have a loan in bankruptcy right now. That is the same thing where they're getting blight because they have all this stuff in the front yard. So the city's trying to basically fine us on the property because it was a CFD, and we are in bankruptcy. We had to get like motion from relief to actually go get the yard cleaned, and it's like, but what does that get us? Because we need like court permission to go clean the yard, but we're like, well, can we get relief because he's not paying for it? And they're like, no, we're just giving you permission to go clean it. And I'm like, oh, that does mean no good.
Can you see the pictures that I'm going through?
Yep.
Yeah.
Okay.
Sorry, just
No, that's okay.
Yeah. So this was just some of what was in the yard, and then there was a violation. So,
Can't even
what
read
was-
this.
what was nice about this situation, and this really depends on the person you are dealing with in the township.
Mhm.
But this guy and I ended up kind of bonding a little bit, and he was on our side. So now I've got kind of boots on the ground where he'll drive by and check out the situation, and as opposed to the township harassing me and sort of being against me, I showed him that I wanted it cleaned up just as much as anyone else did. And so I had an ally with the township and an ally with the neighbors as well.
how much did it cost to clean up?
I don't know. She got this removed herself.
Oh, this was
So-
her.
Oh.
Okay.
Oh, wow.
Okay.
That's
Wow.
impressive.
That's
No,
impressive.
she did. She got that done. I don't know.
So she did that, and you still
Well,
go ahead.
she didn't end up performing, so we can
Yeah.
move forward with the next bullet, next slide. Yeah, so I think she made 1 or 2 payments after the modification. I don't know exactly how many, but we ended up moving forward with forfeiture. It took a long time, and I ended up you can go ahead, Justin, because I'm not sure
Was
the exact
it due to
rule.
COVID, or was it just overall? Because this is during
It was
COVID, based on
during
the date.
COVID times, and we had a Zoom call, and that where it says the boyfriend attended court, and just should be Barber's, like, apostrophe possessive Barber's boyfriend. Anyway,
Don't get hung up, Jamie. Come on. Keep going.
well, you're the wordsmith, the Deep Creek Lake guy, but so
Touche.
But the point was that I thought she was summoned. They were both summoned to court, and we have this, like you said, Chris. It was during COVID, so Zoom, court hearing. I was sitting right where I'm sitting right now, and the judge is there, and he shows up. This guy in his truck, and basically he was just scared and just wanted to make sure he wasn't going to jail. Is what it boiled down to. I think he'd already moved out of the house. He wanted nothing to do with it, and he was like, "No, I'm good." And she didn't show up at all. So that didn't help her cause. So the judge, a week after that court hearing, signed the judgment, and then they have 90 days to, redeem.
Mm-hmm.
So the 90 days really ends up, it's one of those things that's there to protect the borrower, to protect the occupant. But in this case, we're going to go through some of the pictures, and unfortunately, her kids were living in this really absolutely disgusting environment. And, we're not able legally to get inside the property. We're not able to do anything until the redemption period ends.
Yeah.
And Child Protective Services apparently was called instantly, as soon as they got in there. So that's, again, why certain things I didn't ask further questions, but it was like no question about it. They just immediately called CPS, and I don't know, what happened after that. I mean, I do know that you can go ahead, Justin. It took 5 dumpsters and $11,000 for the trash out. And again, that was after the blight cleanup, not including the blight cleanup.
Yeah. Looks like a rental cleanout.
Yeah.
10,000.
Yeah, it says 10,000. I think it was like 11,000, but 5 dumpster loads, large dumpster, full size.
The big
yarders.
ones.
Yeah.
40 yarders. Yeah.
Actually, you want to go to trash out pictures?
Yeah, that'd be good.
Okay.
This is why I don't touch CFDs anymore.
Well, I think one thing, it doesn't matter whether it's a CFD or note, is understanding the conditions of these properties. A lot of comps I've seen recently from sellers are as if it's a newly renovated or updated property that recently sold, and they're trying to use that as a comp, and you've got a loan that's 2, 3, 4 years behind, and this is most likely what the inside is going to be more looking like.
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
And for example, we had one recently, about 2 years ago in one of my older funds, that every website said the property was worth 100,000. PropStream, Zillow, Redfin, BPO, Drive-By. I think it ended up selling for like $22,000 because the inside was so destroyed and gutted and so forth. It was basically, starting over from scratch on the thing, or it should have been knocked down. And I think people need to understand that when they're dealing with these types of assets, that this is more typical than being able to see the actual floor.
Yeah, and
those are small. Those are not that large of dumpsters. Those are only 20-yard dumpsters.
Oh, really?
Yeah. They make 40s. Yeah. We cleaned one out here a year and a half ago that we took 7 40-yarders out of it.
All right.
So, but yeah, that's still a lot regardless.
Oh, they got Jumanji. That's cool.
Ooh.
Monopoly too. Yeah.
There's treasures in there.
You can see the coolest item when we go through the hoarding.
The other thing to Chris's point is, when you're doing the modification, or maybe you're doing a conversion from a CFD, that's a good time to at least get pictures of the interior potentially.
Mm-hmm.
If the borrower is motivated to work with you, then you can ask them, get their permission and get an interior inspection done.
Oh, yeah.
Wow.
Okay, so there's more than just the dumpsters there, Jay.
Tires.
Yeah.
Dispose of.
That's right. I forgot about the tires.
The tires are always a challenge to deal with those.
Yep.
I'm tired of this.
Oh my God. You are bringing
You're on a roll tonight, Justin.
The puns.
It must be the vitamin water.
There must be.
Well, you can tell they worked out. The treadmill kept the trash
I didn't even
going.
realize that was a treadmill.
Hey, you can't because there's too much damn trash on
I was
there.
looking at the box that said Kaplan. I'm like, oh, are they like a higher education scholar? Taking
SAT.
Kaplan courses.
Right.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, the
That is a
basement, I
used
think, is
mattress.
pretty. The basement gets pretty nasty.
Is that a Tempur-Pedic?
It's like fecal matter, and it's just Yeah.
It is amazing to
More-
me
are
that
these
people
tires
are
here,
willing
Jamie?
to live in
Yep.
that type of condition. It just blows my mind.
Well,
over
and
the
sad.
that's really the point I
Yeah.
want to get to, Jay, is that look, when you're okay, and the part I forgot to mention is
Oh, gosh.
there were meth charges that came up. I don't know
Yeah.
if that was on the slide, but
No, it wasn't.
you know, once drugs take a hold of you, like this is not a presentation about stay away from drugs. This is your brain on drugs, but she doesn't have any more control. You know, it's like
No.
she's gone, and it's like someone has to step in and save her and the kids from this situation. And I'm not saying I'm Superman and we swooped in and saved the day, but this wasn't gonna fix itself,
No,
this problem.
no.
So I do feel good about getting at least the kids and hopefully her into a better situation than where they were.
Not to derail the sad subject too much, but have you guys seen the series or the front picture of the series called The Boys on Prime?
No.
No.
No. This little happy face up there on the
Yeah.
wall, that looks kind of like
Mm.
that part of it. Wonder if you saw that movie. Sorry, I derailed us. But this room isn't too bad.
You
Looks like a
you
nice
live there?
blanket.
Carpet. You see the carpet?
There's a
Carpet.
a registered heater.
Yeah.
No,
So
it's a
Chris,
heater.
with this
That's
one
a
and
heater, yeah.
337 and sorry, Nightmare on Elm
Elm.
Street. Yeah.
Mhm.
This is
But
what
did you
people
make money on this?
Wow.
That's what I'm
We're
waiting
gonna
for. How
get
much
to
money?
that. We're
How
gonna
much
get
money
to
you make on this baby?
Oh, hey, Chris, you can use that water heater in your house.
Yeah. Well, I don't have a place for a full. I only have tankless, so I have to find room.
The toilet's broken. Wow. It's hard to believe somebody actually lived in here. Like, how? How do you live in there? It's just crazy. Oh, yeah.
You guys see
Pretty wild.
anything you would
Hawk?
anything you would have done differently by this point? I mean,
The only thing, again, times today is different because back then, again, there was probably you're like there might not be enough equity in this. I think the only thing
Yeah.
I'd say I would have done is maybe again pause a little bit on the wiping out that extra, but it didn't make a
Mhm.
difference
Right.
because you got the property
Forgiving.
back, and
yeah,
the forgiving component would probably be the
it was a
one.
bit
Yep.
too generous.
Yeah.
Really.
A
And
bit
again,
too premature, I would
Premature.
say on that.
yeah.
Yeah.
And it didn't impact your
It
costs
didn't.
or your profits because you end up getting the property. You don't have to foreclose and spend more money and on it.
Right.
So
I'd say,
And-
Jamie, I probably would have done the same thing being one of my first couple of notes, not
Well,
knowing
yeah.
what I know today. And knowing
Right.
what I know today, I wouldn't even hesitate. I would be sending out the notices and
Mhm.
going as far as I can, unless they can
Yeah.
prove without a shadow of a doubt that they deserve to get a modification. If
Yeah.
I would have known the situation was like this and stuff with drugs and kids and
Right.
stuff, I would have done what I can to protect the ones that need protected.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
got this property back.
So we ended
Like
up
you said,
listing.
when it comes to
Oh.
drugs, it's just like
It's like
that's
it's not
you
the
know,
same person anymore.
well, you might
No.
not be able to return from it,
No.
Right.
so
Right.
she may never get right, she or he, whoever it was.
Right.
All right, so we get that.
So we ended up
cash.
listing the property and we sold it for $66K.
Oh, cool.
nice.
So by this time you bought it for 34, you got at least 11 into it plus outstanding costs as well. So you're probably easily 50 to 55 into this.
Yeah.
I think we're gonna actually
You
there
got some payments though, right?
we got
you got a
but we
year
also
payment?
got but there's
Ooh,
another
okay.
there we go.
Oh,
So here's another tip.
Oh,
Don't hesitate to file. I did not expect that to come through. We just filed. There was water damage from a pipe bursting.
Yeah.
I think it was actually 2 separate claims, but did not expect that, honestly. But they approved it. So
It helps your bottom line right there.
um,
I did the same thing
uh,
recently with a house not to this level, but it was a house in bad shape and the water pipe broke during the winter and it ruined some floors and I got a few $1,000s back from it
nice.
for having an FBI claim.
I mean, I don't think there's a real big downside to
That's
trying.
why you're paying for it. I mean, you're
Exactly.
trying to protect the investment.
that's right.
right.
the thing I find crazy is it's cheaper to insure a CFD than it is to lend or place insurance on a note.
Wow, I did not realize that.
Yeah.
I don't like CFDs. Okay. If I'm going to buy a CFD, I'm converting it. I don't want CFDs in my portfolio.
I think this is a universal agreement on that.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Or I will make the seller change it over. I've got two right now, interestingly, in Michigan that are being changed over right now before I buy them. And I'm making
Gotcha.
the seller pay all of the cost to meet his obligations of the contract.
We've got one in a state right now where CFD, the borrower passed away. The daughter wants to keep it going. And we're like, well, because it wasn't also recorded, we're like, we can just put this in your name. Like, we don't, I mean, just, we can roll this right into your name and put it as a mortgage and note, and here you go. And it's like, please, it's like, I'm begging you. Like, she's like, you'd really do that for us? And I'm sitting there thinking, I would love to do that for you.
Well, I guess.
Yeah.
Yes. So you can see the total, see the numbers here, FPI payout. So net proceeds from the sale was a little over 60K. Insurance payout, almost 11.5. That was a big bump. Just additional, property taxes, holding costs, etc. were 8,800. The principal return means that's what my JV partner had put in. So originally we had a slide that had his whole breakdown of his return, but nobody really cares about that so much.
What was the whole timeline on? Oh,
yeah,
2.5. Sorry, 2.5 years.
No, I almost missed that too on the slide, but 2.5 years. So it did take a while. I mean, that's the other thing I wanted to mention. These people, CFDs are not necessarily a 3-month forfeiture and you just have the property like many of the gurus might claim. Now she was paying for a while, so that was a good bit of that 2.5 years was her paying, and then
because she paid for a year, right?
Right.
18 then months. She stopped. So really, you're 18 months into the default stage.
Yeah, something like that. Yeah. So, but it still was not. It's not a 3 to 6 month process. I mean,
well, none of it is. I mean, let's just be realistic. You're not going to get it back in 2 months. It's just not going to
happen.
Right.
So we say total income, which includes profit, includes everything above. And that gross return and the IRR there would be, just to me, if I was using my own money, no JV partner. You can say that my return was infinite and his return was less than was 75% of those numbers there at the bottom.
Still good return.
21.1
Still
is
a good return for sure. Still good for him, for my JV partner. Good for me. I learned a lot. I made money. Good for the kids, good for her. I would like to think the borrower, and good for the neighbors, good for the township. I assume someone has fixed up the property and it's in nicer condition now. So
knock it down.
Yeah, it could quite possibly.
Should have sold it to you for more. Got a good deal on it. Too good a deal.
Lining in there, buddy.
$20-something thousand, man.
Right.
Well, if we went, I have some other case studies for a few months from now. If you want to see one or two I've lost money on, but yeah.
I sell you one for like $100 that ended up paying a boatload of money. Yeah. So.
Oh yeah. But I've also
include that one in the other ones too, though.
I have it. I have a YouTube video. It's how we turned $2,000 into 18,000 or 20,000 or something. I bought that one from Chris for $100. But main takeaways: not every investment will be smooth sailing. You can fly through these, Justin. Can't control the borrower, and a lot of that's why it's like you just got to be okay with, especially with these NPLs. I didn't buy it as an NPL, but you don't know how it's going to go. It's either going to go through the borrower or through the property, but that could take on many forms, and you need to be okay with all of those. You can't control, you can't predict human behavior, especially if drugs are involved. So go ahead. I think, the kids were saved from an unsafe environment, multiple exit strategies, equity at purchase is key. Can't guarantee it, but when in doubt, file an insurance claim and communicate often with our investors. We didn't touch on this, but I quarterly would update with a formal slide presentation, actually, my JV partner. And so his money was tied up for 2.5 years, which is kind of a long time when you're going into the deal. And although it was supposed to be performing, but yeah, so communicate often. I mean, many times your passive investors in a fund or your money investors, your partners, they don't necessarily want to be involved in the day-to-day, but they want to know that you know what you're doing and that they can reach you and that you're communicative and you're not going to run and hide. So townships can be your friend.
Not if they're in Ohio.
Sounds a little personal.
So one of the things I want to mention about takeaways that I think is really important for people who are watching and listening is the equity at purchase and not being able to control the buyer. And I say that because especially on these performing loans, I see a lot of people paying a top dollar for performing loans that are basically 90, 100, 110% LTV, whether it's secondary market, seller financing, whatever the case may be, understand that, if it's a 95% LTV, and you're like, oh, I'm going to get 10 or 11% thinking that's great. Understand if that goes into a default, that, the foreclosure process, the time, and the expense that basically the money's not going to be recoverable because you're already tapped out on that price, and the property has probably also been in worse condition. You can really get hurt very badly buying performing loans that have not a lot of equity play because of property value and your cost. It's that double whammy hit. So be very careful.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, for sure.
What's your guys' investment to value kind of threshold on a performing note that you don't want to exceed?
Oh, investment to value?
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I'd probably say 95% if it's everything else is really good, but that's
Oh, you're aggressive.
60.
I got a couple.
Investment, yeah.
I'm sorry.
Yeah, investment, ITV.
Not loan.
ITV.
Yeah, ITV.
No, I was thinking investment to principal balance. I'm sorry.
No,
yeah,
investment to value.
I would say 75% for me.
Okay. I'm 70. I'm 70 is what we basically use.
Yeah.
But yeah, you're absolutely right. If you overpay on an NPL, you still can be okay. Like, I mean, you can lose money on both, but if you overpay on a performing loan and there's no equity, yeah, I mean,
You just have to be patient and play the long game.
assume it goes non-performing, then you overpaid for a non-performer with no equity. You're kind of stuck.
Yeah.
Most deals, when you have a real estate problem like that, as long as you wait long enough, you can get yourself out of it one way or the other without really a big hit at all.
Time heals a lot of mistakes if you can weather the time.
Could be 5, could be 10, could be 15
True.
years, but still time with all the exits that you have, just being a traditional real estate investor.
Yeah.
Too. Mm-hmm. I would say back to what Chris was saying about 95% LTV. So for loose commentary here, we'll say loan to value is like a loan to original loan balance. So at 95%, if I were to buy a loan, it was super solid as a performing loan, and it was like, only moved down 5% from what the loan balance was, but it was like a 50 or 60% true investment to true value of what the property is today, I'd be okay with that.
I'd be okay.
Oh yeah. Oh,
I base it off the investment to valuation.
But if it was a brand new loan and they only put 5% down,
That's
definitely
a different ballgame. Yeah.
That's the ones I'm referring to.
Right.
Yeah.
Exactly. Nah, not interested. No way.
After 2 years is the real story with the borrower on their pay history. If you have, somebody came up with a study and said if it's less than 2 years, that's the greatest chance of a default is when the first 2 years.
Yeah, I believe I read a report somewhere. I think it was like 70% of all, somewhere between 70 and 80% of all defaults happen in the first 2 years after origination. Now, I think that was on FHA loans, is where
you buy from Chris Seveney, right?
So that makes total sense.
Yeah, because FHA is only it was
3.5%. Yeah,
3% down, and I mean every study out there says the lower the down payment, the higher risk of default. So it goes back to what we're saying is the
Logically.
lower the investment to value, the better off you're going to be.
Yeah. And this is somewhat obvious, but the best predictor of the future is the past. So if there is a strong pay history, likely that will continue. I've had buyers where they're asking me for the credit report from origination, all the origination docs from a loan that was 15 years, you know. It's like, why do you want that? Look at this pay history. This is what's actually been happening.
Right.
You know, so I was never.
Those are
into
usually the
history.
people who don't have a lot of experience and they just took a guru course and it's like, here's a checklist of everything you need. Or they
Yes.
pulled it off of like, or they're like an originator saying, oh, especially on the CFDs, like, show me the 1003, show me this and that. I'm like, CFD? I'm like,
Right.
CFD 1003 on a CFD? I don't think I've ever seen that.
Yeah.
Now,
Yeah, I had a buyer back out on the CFD recently because she said because it had forced place insurance on it, and I'm like, that's almost always the case with CFDs because it's really hard to get
insurance.
Yeah, and it's like, and finally, it took weeks, and I finally told her, just please don't bid on things that you don't know what you're bidding on. Like it was pretty clear, you just shouldn't be. You don't know what you're buying, so it's fine, but learn it first. So
now, on the flip side, with what Jamie was saying about asking for the underwriting and everything for something that's been 15 years old, it has no bearing whatsoever. Now, if that is a note that's been originated in the last 2 years and it's a first and a second, and I'm buying the first, I absolutely want to see the underwriting on that one. Even though I've got 2 years of experience, I want to see how strong they. I want to see how strong they are coming into the deal. I also want to see how long have they been at their job? I mean, the stability.
yeah,
At 2 years, in my eyes, as you get further down the road on that, the less important the underwriting was. But from 0 to 2, yeah, I want to see it.
What if
Makes
they put
sense.
down a 30% down payment? How would you feel about that?
If there's a 30% down payment, that helps offset. As we all know, there's always a balance in there. It's never cut and dried. But I would still like to see it, even with 30% down.
Okay.
If I can get it.
We've tried, and I think we've been very successful, honestly, in just staying away from loans that have been originated since COVID, because it's been, did they buy it at the peak value? Where they're getting the money from the government? Is that what they're making today? I would much rather, and kind of goes to I think what everyone's saying here, I'd rather buy a performing loan from 2014 or 15, even if they missed a few payments in 2017, than a loan that was originated 3 months ago.
I think you posted something, Chris, recently about consumer debt or savings having dwindled or something like that.
The New York Fed report with, basically the hockey stick for credit card and car auto debt delinquency just goes up and then
and up and up. Yeah.
It went through the charts. All right, we'll get through some of these slides here. So if y'all have anything you want us to price, send stuff in to this QR code, take a picture of it with your smartphone, take a look at it. I'll get these guys involved, see if they want to buy it. The next time we're going to do a show is August 14th. School will be back in session here for us in Indiana, so it'll be nice to get the kids back to a regular schedule. What is it out there
for their benefit or yours?
Yeah. Yes, for this guy.
When does school start for Maryland and Virginia?
Ours is right before Labor Day now.
Yeah, ours is usually the end of August.
Yeah.
Used to be after Labor Day.
Yeah.
It was called.
They called it Ocean City something for us.
Yeah, it was King's Dominion for us because it's a lot of Maryland, Virginia have a lot of seasonal workers during the summer for the areas. So they wanted the kids, especially high schoolers, would all work at the resorts through Labor Day. So they'd have them start school afterwards. But now they pulled that back. Our son ended school this year on, I think, June 10th. Was when it ended.
Okay. I think we were like at the end of May, like the week before the end of May is when we stopped.
Yeah.
Before Memorial Day.
Wow.
Awesome. So there you have it. Get this, all four of us on the big camera here. All right. So I ended my podcast reign with the Be the Bank podcast that I was doing. I recorded an episode with Eddie Speed actually yesterday, and I posted it today. So if anybody wants to kind of see and know the reasons why I stopped podcasting, it's an 83-minute episode, so you really have to sit down and don't watch it at 2x. Just watch it at 1.5 would be fine. But I stopped.
Eddie's already a fast talker, right?
I gotta
He
say,
is
that's
fast
pretty
talker.
fast at 2x.
Kind of.
It's kind of easy when you interview Eddie because he has so many stories. You just sit back and it's
Yeah.
like, yeah, all right.
I interviewed him once. It was very easy.
He's done it quite often. He's got a pretty cool story, but most people don't know that Eddie has been buying notes since 1980.
Wow.
In his company, Colonial Funding Group, that him and his wife Martha started. They were doing that stuff since the 80s, and he's got cool stories about. You guys know Ken D'Angelo, the founder of Homevestors.
Mhm.
But yeah, he's got
Yeah.
some cool
He is.
stories with him, and so anyways, it's just a really neat podcast. Just learn more about Eddie and really how he has done a lot of neat techniques that helps the industry
Mhm.
out back in the 90s and stuff. And a lot of the things that we talked about in the show resonated with what we do today on how we underwrite deals and what we look for. And it's just, I was just thinking about this before we got on the show today, is how similar it was back then versus now. With the only real change is technology. Like when he was going and finding leads, he'd go get the yellow pages at the local city. And that's what he would do. He would dial
Wow.
numbers all day long and he wouldn't get paid for it. So he's got a cool story about how he started with that and how he was making money. And so you guys check it out. It's on Be the Bank podcast. I got it on my YouTube channel, American Note Buyers. It's already posted today. That was kind of cool. So that's some new stuff with me. I'm still going to be doing this monthly broadcast with y'all. I think it's fun to do the case studies. I get sick and tired of the educational stuff as far as saying the same thing all the time. So for me, it's just more fun to do the case studies. And I think it adds a lot of value. For those of you watching live or watching the replay, go ahead and put in the comments if you have questions. And Chris, Jamie, or Jay, or myself, we can all chime in and help you out. Or if you have a situation that you're in and you want just some, how would we look at it or how would we view it? We'd be more than happy to throw that on for the next one we do in August. So is anything changing with y'all that you want to say on record now?
No, not with,
Fine.
not with us.
That's fine.
No, it was quiet. So,
I mean, we've got solutions for both passive and active note investors. So I've got a mentorship program for those who want to scale their active note business, and then we've got our Integrity Income Fund for accredited passive investors who want to put their money to work. Those are our two things we're focused on as far as adding value to the note investor out there.
So the mentorship program is for people wanting to get into note investing, or is it more advanced for advanced students? Or
I mean, it tends to be more newer investors, but we can go more advanced than we have. So if you need help, creating your buy box, creating your due diligence checklist, but it's really a matter of the true value is the one-on-one mentorship, as opposed to this is, a group definitely has value and a course definitely has value, but this way we can meet you where you are and understand some people are coming with 25 years of real estate investing experience. They don't need to learn about real estate investing. They need specifically other information. It really depends on where you're coming from, what your goals are. So, and we also have Shantae Duffy on board for the mentorship program, which she has a ton of servicing knowledge as well. And so that's that's for the active note investor. You actually want to buy and manage notes, whether it's one note or 50. And then the passive option is for accredited investors. And I know Chris and Jay and Justin all have similar offerings.
Very true. I was just going to say, for any of you out here that are just getting started, or you've run into something that you're not for sure how to handle, man, bring that to us. You've got 4 experienced guys here being in the note business, all of us being active. We're active buyers. We all deal with performing as well as NPLs. Tap into this resource. I mean, this is an unbelievable resource that you've got available to you. So make sure that you send those ahead of time to Justin. I'm sure that he has an ability to bring that to for the discussion, and we can certainly beat them up. We all have a little bit different views in how we
No,
invest.
don't beat me up. We'll beat
No,
up
not you.
Theo.
I mean, we can beat the subject up.
Again,
Okay.
creek, lake. We're trying to be specific.
Yeah. There you go. But we all invest a little bit different in what we're doing, and you've got 4 different approaches, all right, that are all successful here.
And we all think we're right too.
Yeah, tap into that. So, as far as for us, specifically the Cassidy Investment Group, you can go to our website. We do a monthly live call, which is last Thursday of the month. It's just a Zoom call. You can sign up there, and it's an open discussion on people who are learning about the note business, and just kind of take it wherever you guys want to go with it. So, and then you can also sign up for a newsletter on there as well. So,
A few things I'll tack on to what both of you just said too is, Jay, you mentioned like using this as a resource. And even if we don't know the answer, we probably know someone know where to go, because we've been in the business a long time, and we're also from different parts of the country as well, and we have contacts throughout the country. That was one thing I just wanted to mention. Second thing, Jamie, you talked a little bit about your mentorship, and what I find interesting for people that they should understand is, there's a lot of note groups out there that you can join, and they're, I don't know, a few $100 plus per month. And, what they provide is, okay, here's some basic content, and they might have like a webinar once a week or once a month. And you look at it and it's like, okay, I'm on here with 30 other people. I'm hearing stuff, but it's not like specific to me. Whereas if you spend one-on-one time, you probably, an hour of time might cost you the same as the month, but that 1 hour is so specific to what it is you're trying to get to and get your question answered. And if you want to kind of move quicker in this space, I would tell you that would be the way to streamline it. So Jamie, I'll give everyone a 20% coupon for my commission on that. So
save yourself a year.
Yeah, and in all seriousness, like I have a guy who I'm mentoring. He's in Chris's group, and the group has benefits I can't provide, as an individual for sure. But we're giving, one-on-one attention, and he's going to get his first note here in the next few weeks, hopefully. So I don't know if that would have happened, So yeah, I agree. You might pay more per hour for sure, but you're going to move more quickly.
Yeah. And the only other thing I'll mention, similar to, Jamie, we have a fund out there as well. We can accept non-accredited, and I can actually talk about it through the Regulation A+ offering. So we have a fund that investors can invest with as little as $5,000.
And I can tell you, I've been an investor in Chris's fund for pretty much right after it started, I think, and they have not missed a payment.
Actually, this Saturday will be the 2-year anniversary of our SEC qualification. So
cool.
That's awesome.
You throwing a party?
Well, it's my birthday next week, so that's what the party happens.
Okay, you're gonna wait for that week, huh?
So,
which one are you more excited
for a week?
or just going from 1 week through the next week. There we go.
So July is our crazy month because we've got my birthday. A week later is my son's. A week after that is my wife's. So it's a busy month.
Take off the whole month. 4th of July in there. It's just the big 7E party.
I am not as successful as Jay as a note investor, so I cannot take a full month off.
You just have to have a son-in-law.
There you go. That helps too.
That's
you got a whole staff. You got a whole staff. I have my son-in-law. Okay, he runs it while I'm gone.
I've got a 20-year-old daughter. If I have a son-in-law right now, we'll be having heart attacks. Not.
That's true. That could be a problem. All right, I think we've kept everybody on long enough. Thanks everyone for hanging on. This is a fun show today. We'll see you guys back in August.
Yep. 14th.
All right,
14th.
All right. Thanks guys for hanging out. We'll see y'all next month.
Thank you all. Take care.